All right, we are here with a shooter born in heaven, a task that we all dread. Some of us have become pretty good pros at doing it, and I think Nikita has caught on to some of these antics, and the 1% of people that have gotten this task done with basically no problem. For the rest of the 99%, this task has become even harder than it already was, and that's probably why you're watching this video right now. Hello, my name is Danotage, and we're going to go into a guide that helps you complete a shooter born in heaven. Specifically, this video will be for Shoreline, a map that is very polarizing. Some people love it, some people hate it. I don't know too many people that are indifferent about it. It kind of goes either way. You either have the resort and all the stuff going on, or you have nothing, essentially, what people will say. So, Shooter Born in Heaven is a task where now, instead of 100-meter headshots, you have to make 125 meters headshots. 3 of them per map of 5 different maps. So, with that being said, we have to go through and actually see which spots on the map are good for getting this done. For those that, again, are veteran to this game, and maybe or maybe not, you've seen some videos on here's some good spots. I've done a customs video before. You've seen things that have changed. Shoreline things have also changed because there are some spots that are just about 110 meters. So you may have to adjust some things. You may have to move around some things. But I've also split this video up into chapters. So check down in the description or look at the play guide and go to the spots that you want to see and watch them and check them out. I will say, though, if you ask a question in the comments, which I implore you do, and it's in this video, simply you're going to get a response just like this one that says something along the lines of, it's in the video. So, with that being said, watch the whole video. Check it out for yourself. And then to confirm you've done that, give it a like, and then comment with, "Thanks for the video, you big mustachioed freak." And we'll be on our merry way. That'll let me know that you've watched the video. And then I can answer any questions. Because, truthfully, there's going to be a lot of things that I miss. There will be a lot of things that I don't explain very well. And if that is there and truthful, I'll just answer the question. And if there's a really good question or really in-depth question, I'll just make a whole new video on it to explain it a little bit better for you. So, let's start getting into what exactly a Shooter Born in Heaven is going to take, and exactly what we're going into it. So, a Shooter Born in Heaven is very much designed for snipers, right? Sniper rifles, long-range DMRs, and with the occasion long-range either M4 or AK platform. There's all kinds of ways to do it, but let's talk about which weapons and ammo are going to be the best for this. So, you probably already use all these weapons. It's not anything that's going to be crazy. You don't need to go get anything specific, but something that's going to help you out a little bit more than I think you're necessarily heard a million times or what have you. I'm going to say a lot of bolt action rifles are really nice for you because it allows you to get a very accurate shot, but it also prevents a lot of jamming, which could be very frustrating. Granted, it's less frustrating than being in an actual firefight and, having a jam there. But there's a reason that bolt actions exist, and it's not just because they're cool sounding, because they are, but because they're simple to use and they shouldn't jam nearly as much. I don't necessarily know how the game calculates that, but that's how it works IRL, so I don't know. Anyway, so we're going to be looking at I'm going to be recommending, I should say, mostly using bolt-action rifles or DMRs within the 7.62 by 5.4 range of the ammunition. So the reason for this is because it's a fast bullet and it's a high damaging bullet. But it doesn't, if you're using the right stuff like, let's say SMB or LPS, you're more than likely not going to get a crazy one shot to the chest. Because what we're looking for here is headshots specifically. So if we look at something like the SP98 that I'll be working with, you can see that the minute of angle and the accuracy is under 0.5, but 5.0 is pretty close. The point is, if for those who don't know what a minute of angle is Um, I won't go into the explanation because I will probably get it wrong. It's been a long time since I've learned this in school. But a minute of angle is how you measure how far from the center, how what the actual distance is vertically and horizontally on a 2D platform or 2D plane. What that is. So a minute of angle within the accuracy of a weapon would be the game's sort of margin of error. So if you put the middle of your crosshair on something, there's an RNG factor of that much, which is, not very much, meaning not an entire whole minute of angle, which is pretty big, of margin of error. So if you're using weapons like a 7.62 by 5.4 bolt action, and this goes again for the Mosin or the SV98 or any of those, you have a very nice, crisp, pinpoint accurate shot. That's pretty much going to always hit your target, pretty much no matter what. As far as ammo goes, like I said, we're looking at, if we're using the 7.62 by 5.4, we're looking at ammo that is going to be mostly like LPS or SNB. I will also say another good platform to use for this quest is going to be the 7.62 by 5.1. So you're talking M80s, M61, M62, stuff like that. TCW, but TCW is kind of trash. So we're looking at M700s. We're looking at the MDR. Technically, can use it. We're looking at a few different things. The M1A. The difference is between the 7.62 by 5.1 and the 7.62 by 5.4 is the speed of the round. So and that comes from the rifle as well. So if we look at the muzzle velocity of a SV98, we're looking at about 902 meters per second. If we look at SVD, we're looking at 816 meters per second, which is, significant. It's not really that significant, but it's enough. Now, when you look at something like an M1A, you're looking at a speed of about 783 meters per second. That's, I would say, significantly slower. So the sniper rounds from the SV98 and etc., they're faster, and that is important for here because that means that you're going to also be more accurate. That goes into the MOA calculation, but it also goes into how much you actually have to range, and if it drops too far, well, you're going to hit it. But also, if somebody's moving horizontally with desynced servers, you want the fastest bullet you can possibly get. And I won't harp too much on ammo and guns, but it is important to take that into consideration. One thing I will add though is 5.56. So we're talking about M4 ammo, or like a TX or something more DMR like would actually help you a lot in this task as well, because it's been recently buffed, so it should do the damage. But one thing about the 5.56 ammo is it's very, very fast, and that's something to keep into consideration because they don't do a whole lot of damage, but they're fast enough to the point where you're gonna basically hit your target pretty much all the time. So muzzle velocity of a 8.56A1, which if you're using a tracer, you can do that and maybe hit your shots a little bit better, is gonna be a 940 meters per second shot. 945 for an 8.55. Those are going to be very good rounds to take your targets out because they should do everything that you need it to do. So while I do recommend using the 7.62 by 5.4 round, 5.56 will do the job, especially after the most recent buffs. So take that into consideration for the next things we talk about here. All right, so let's talk about these spots that we're going to be hitting up. One of the first spots that I will be talking about is right in the center of the map, right below the resort. You could be taking shots from the resort, that's fine, but it's obviously very difficult to be taking them there because it's going to be very busy. So if you're running with a chatted out squad and you guys take out the entire resort, well, you can use this to your advantage, but by then it's going to be probably too late. So I'm going to be talking about the section around HEPs. So if you see what we have here, HEPs is the name of the key. So if you look around here, there's a few different small hills. One thing you want to look at is these are a lot of close range targets and a lot of close range hills. A lot of these hills that were used in the past do not work anymore. So if we look at a few sections from, like, say, the If you're looking at the resort, going to be the left-hand side, which I think is considered the northern side or the west side, depending on the map you're looking at. But essentially, on the left-hand side of the river, which is the big piece there, you'll see that there's a hill there. That can look over a lot of different things, especially over other sniper locations. So you can look over to the spine, which is a big rock formation that will allow you to see some players moving back and forth, sometimes at a cottage, sometimes from the gas station. But some people will sit there and snipe. So that's going to be a very specialized location, but it could work. If you look a little bit towards the actual gas station itself, you can sort of see people coming up from the river and coming through the valley there. Those are going to be very difficult locations, but they're doable. This is not one of the top tier spots. While this being my first spot that I'm calling out, this is a spot that I wanted to point out that is not going to work for nearly as much anymore, because a lot of these shots are honestly right around 100 meters. So it was kind of iffy before they changed the task. Now it's even harder. So if you look around, you'll see a couple of different markers and a couple of different locations, and visually we'll show those a little bit too. On the other side of HEPS, you'll see a small hill that looks over the HEPS station, which allows you to kill some scavs and stuff like that. But if you take this and look a little bit to the left of the HEPS station, you'll be able to see across the river. There's a couple of spots here you can also hit, and if you look very far down, assuming the weather is clear for you, you can see a couple of spots that look over to a hill that snipes the pier, which is another spot we're going to look at in just a second. But you'll be able to see those locations over there, and sometimes you can catch players there. This is the hard thing about Shoreline. Shoreline is a map that is very difficult to get this task done on, because seeing players outside of the resort is going to be very rare, especially not at the beginning of when people are getting these tasks done. Especially now, we're already like 2 months into the wipe, and by the time you watch this, you're probably going to be further. And then, maybe keep this in mind when you get the task next time, but you're going to have to get it done now if you want to anyway. So it's kind of a big toss-up. So if you look up down to the hill, you'll see a couple of sniper spots, and you can possibly hit those. It's going to be tricky, but it can be done. So next spot, we're going to take a look over at the areas around the weather station itself. I'm not going to go to that spot we talked about just a second ago just yet, but we're going to go to the weather station. This is probably going to be one of your best spots to take shots from. So there's a spawn right underneath the weather station, which allows you to get up to the weather station rather quickly. This is going to probably be one of your best bets, because people will be rushing towards you. People will know you're up there, but at the same time, people will also be running around you. You'll have a couple of people running from the weather tower, or the secondary tower, the radar dish there, which you can also shoot from. It's a good spot too. If you take a look over there, there will be people that are probably going to be trying to do the same task, and you just have to basically beat them to your position. And you'll be able to take that. People will be going around it. People will be going in front of it. People will be going across your screen too, also towards the beach. All those spots are going to be very prime locations for you to take this shot. They're all going to be very difficult, but this task is meant to be difficult. You also have, if you can get up there quickly, you have a spawn slightly to the right. You're going to possibly have 2 teams or 2 spawns fighting each other right in the middle there. That's important to know, because, well, you can take advantage of that, and you can take some shots without people even knowing that you're there while those 2 teams are fighting. So as people are coming towards you, try to take the shot. Here's a couple of markers as to where your minimum shot will be. The good thing about this spot is basically anything around it, or anything that you see, will more than likely be a good shot, because if they're too close, you're probably doing a different fight anyway. If you go to the other side of this station, you'll be able to see more towards the pier. When you see the pier, well, you can't really see the pier too much, but you can see close to it. Those are some good spots too, and people will be running along that forest area in the tree line a little bit, so that you can take those shots. But be careful, a lot of these shots are not quite to 125 meters, so you want to take them as far away as you possibly can. Taking them at angles that are not right in the middle of the mountain is probably going to be the safest way to do it, and going to give you a little bit more distance as well. If you keep looking around and scan that whole area, those are all pretty good locations to shoot from, or to shoot at from this location. But like I said, be very careful and keep a rangefinder on you, because some of these shots will not be far enough. As I said, the A small radar tower across from the weather station is a good spot too, especially if that's your spawn. You can look back up at the weather station like we said before, but you can also look across to the other spawns that spawn pretty close to you. There's about 3 over here that are pretty close together, and if you could take those shots early on, that may be your best bet. I'll tell you right now that most of this task, especially on this map, is probably going to have to get done at the beginning of each raid, because if you're looking towards the end, people are usually going towards the middle, and once they hit that 50-yard line or that halfway point, they're probably going to start to try to get out. So while there are many opportunities to get those, they're very short windows. So try to take your shot as early as the beginning of the raid as possible. Obviously, don't rush it. All right. So let's talk about beachside spawns. Beachside spawns, there's many of them. There's one in the construction area near the blue fence. There's one just down the road from that. There are a bunch on the opposite side of the map, but for the most part, they're all along that beach. Knowing these is key, because when you spawn here, unless you spawn near the road to customs that looks over to the more inland spawn, you're basically only going to be fighting the other spawns that are along this beach, at least for your initial start point. Obviously, you can still look up at the weather station and see that, but for the most part, you're going to be fighting these other spawns, so let's pay attention to those. Most every beach spawn has a spawn on either side of them when it comes to the beach. So take those into consideration, look both ways before you cross the street, and hopefully take your shots. If you're in the construction, you're a big open target. If maybe you're betting on somebody not being a good shot and giving away their position, you might want to bait yourself out there. But I will say that if you get out of your spawn location and find a nice bush to hide in, that's probably going to be your best bet. I will say also that at any of the top of these hills, you're more than likely going to cast a very large silhouette. So find a bush, find something to background on yourself, and make sure you're not seen. Anywhere you can prone is obviously good for many different reasons. Obviously, you're going to be a lot more accurate, but hopefully less hidden, or more hidden, I should say. And if you can toss your backpack, do that as well. Making your silhouette as small as possible is always going to be your best bet. Okay, there's a house. There's a house on the hill near the resort. If you're running up from the road to customs side, you'll be able to run up and see it before you get to the resort. Otherwise, you got to go past the resort. There's a spot here that, again, like I said, can see pretty much everything behind you. There's a very good spawn right next to it that is the closest spawn to the east wing of resort. If you get that, and you're looking to get this task done, getting up to that house as quickly as possible is a really, really good position, because you'll see possibly 3 different spawns coming right at you, mostly from the road to customs side, and the road to customs spawn will be the most likely one to come to you. But anything coming from the right of that, going either to the weather station or to you, is visible. So those are possible shots to take, and this is where, especially in that giant field, is where you're going to be wanting to take a lot of legs and slow people down. Most people will do things that will prevent them from slowing down after being shot in the leg. It will help them take damage, but, it'll be a little bit easier to not slow down. If you're running like an SJ6, I don't believe that has any pain medicine. It doesn't say on here. There's stamina recovery. It'll give you tremors and stuff like that, but I don't think it actually gives you a pain reliever. So unless they're actually popping ibuprofen, and you should be able to take their legs out, no problem. So pay attention to that and don't get got. Okay, there's one more location right over here, next to this house. If you look in the back here, there's a couple of prime areas. I will say, though, that unless you are in a very specific location, more than likely this one right here, they're not going to be 125 meters. And if you're taking this shot, you gotta be able to have good eyes and shoot right into the resort. You can see on both sides of the map, though, so that's a plus, and you can be able to take those. There's a couple of these locations that are pretty open and pretty exposed, so pay attention to that. But this spot right here is one of the ones where you can get a good vantage point on a lot of things. But be careful, this is not my favorite spot. This is just one of those spots that if you are gutsy enough, you can take this and try to take advantage of it. Okay, now let's talk about that far hill that looks over pier that we were talking about earlier. This is a great location to get a lot of these shooter-borne tasks done. However, this is a very, very popular location, so you will have a target on your back by being here. If you're careful and you're patient, you can get a lot of this stuff done from this location. But like I said, beware. You could be shot from a couple different angles. I would say like 3 or 4. From the pier, from the rocks beyond the gas station from where you are, and from the HEP station, both opposite side of the river and same side of the river. You can be seen from a lot of different locations. It's a little shadowy to your advantage, but for the most part, keep a tree to one of your sides, probably your left side, and try to get a nice hidden location. But you can see at the pier, and if you see somebody running in, well, keep in mind, there's only one way out. They have to come out of that front gate. They can go 2 different ways after that, but they have to come out of that front gate. So if you're going to take a shot and you feel like being patient, you see somebody running in, maybe a whole team running in, maybe wait a little bit. I'll tell you right now, as somebody who is veteran to this game, I've been killed coming out of there quite a few times by some pretty patient players. I've also been killed by players who we've known are out there, but considering we're stuck, we got no other choice, and sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. I'll show you the markers here that are a little bit more difficult to track. The problem with this is the best location you have to seeing everything is kind of low on the mountain, but beware, that does bring you closer to that marker. So try to do your best to keep maybe the black truck on this road at about 125 meters, because that's a good marker to keep yourself aligned with. That also is pretty parallel to one of the overhead bumps that goes sideways to the bridge that will help you. Those are pretty directly aligned shots. I'll tell you right now that if they're coming on the beach side and they come over that hill, they can't really go side to side very much. So if you can line that shot up perfectly and just have very minimal margin of error, you're gonna hit that shot almost every single time. So get that range dialed down and make sure that you're looking right at that location. All right, and those are all the spots. Those are the spots that I have. Shoreline is not a very good map for this task, and this task is going to be very difficult on this. But like I said, if you're going to take advantage of this task, take advantage of the first couple minutes of the raid. That's going to be your best bet. And if you use these locations, you'll be able to at least get a spot to get a chance. You may not get the task done right away, but for the most part, it's going to be possible. Most of the time that I get this task done on this map is because of player fights that I see at a distance, and then I kind of just back up until I'm at 100 meters, now 125 meters, and getting that done. So if you can't hit a spot, there's lots of room to make distance and do your best to get that headshot. If you have any questions, if I wasn't clear, I know this map is difficult to explain, so please ask your questions, and make sure that you tell me you watched the video. Not that that's a prerequisite, but I want to see how many people actually watched the whole video. So, there's about 7 spots. There's a little more than that, 7 areas, I would say. And, well, with that, I say good luck. And let me know if you get it done. I'm curious. And if you found a different spot, I'd love to know that too. And if you want to keep it secret, I understand that as well. So, thank you so much for watching. My name is Danotage. And please, give it a like. I'll see you next time. Have a good day. Bye.